Hey guys, Brent Porcio, TopVelocity.net. I wanted to put out this video on bench press for throwing velocity and basically go over a key technique, but also mention a little bit what's in the article if you haven't read the article on bench press for throwing velocity. So, there's a lot of, the conventional wisdom is that bench press is bad for pitchers or for position players. I've heard it my whole career and I still hear it today. And the crazy thing is, if you do the research, I haven't found the research, so I'm going to speak personally. The research I've done, I haven't found the research that says in any way that they found correlations to bench press and injury in throwers or pitchers or position players, or that there was a decrease or a reduction in performance, throwing velocity for baseball players as well. So I'm not seeing the claims, but I hear a lot of medical professionals, I hear a lot of coaches, I hear a lot of parents, I hear a lot of players that constantly echo this claim that bench press is somehow it's bad for baseball or bad for pitchers or bad for position players. So I went out and in this article that you see linked below, I found 4 case studies that were, everything that we needed to hear in 4 different cases that bench press had a significant increase in throwing velocity for pitchers and other position players. So there is studies there showing the opposite of what we're hearing, and also in my experience in using it as a pitcher and in coaching it, have had nothing but good results out of it. But in this video, I'm going to go over technique because it's important in technique that we know what we're doing, because when we do move into heavy loads, which studies do show heavy loads can have a better effect on velocity, specificity, that we need to make sure that we are avoiding as much risk of injury as possible. In anything we do, when we push our limits, if it's throwing a baseball as hard as I can, if it's lifting heavier weight than I'm used to, there is always a risk of injury. So let's not throw the baby out with the bathwater, because if we had that mentality, which typically we hear also in the conventional wisdom of baseball, if it's, if I can, there's a chance that I can injure myself in some type of training, being a lift, an exercise, or a drill, that I shouldn't do that. Because if that's the case, we shouldn't play baseball, because most of the injury in the sport comes from the game itself. Okay, we just need to learn how to avoid the injury, how to be efficient in our movements, and how to effectively enhance the results that we want without falling into more injury. So that's the challenge here. It's a balance. It's not a one-side scale of this is all we can do. It's a balance. It's learning how to properly perform these specific exercises, lifts, or drills that are going to help us. And that's what the 3X pitching velocity programs are about. That's what the 2X velocity programs are about. They're a protocol, they're training programs that have been proven to be most effective enhancing those throwing velocities and pitching velocities. So that's why they're effective. And also, too, they come with tons and tons and tons of instruction to make sure you're reducing the risk of injury. And that's what we're going to do today. Okay, so proper technique. And there was one key study in that article that talked about in the bench press, we activate more pec muscle, which, why are we doing a bench press, guys? We are strictly doing a bench press to build the pectoralis major. That's why we're doing the bench press. Yeah, we activate the serratus muscles. There's other things activated, but mainly to build that large muscle group, which is one of the 2 large muscle groups that activate the arm into internal rotation, which is pectoralis majors and the latissimus dorsi. Lats, we isolate in pulls, and we are also very much focused that in the 2X and 3X programs. I will not cover that here. Just focusing on how to build more activity, more strength, more power in the pectoralis muscle right here, and isolate that mainly. So that study said a narrow grip, which we'll go over what a narrow grip is, will activate more pec than deltoid. We don't want to activate too much deltoid, because we're getting into small muscle groups and we're doing heavy loads. There we go. Now we move into closer to injury. And we want to do a horizontal bench in a horizontal bench, it was proven to activate more pec than deltoid. Okay, so that's where we're going to stay in this technique right here. Also, I will bring in some technique to isolate and stay and make sure we don't get into the deltoids, that we really, really isolate the pec muscles with a lower elbow position. I'll even talk about using a 3-board bench or this yoga block to reduce horizontal abduction, which is typically where, if we are in a high elbow position, that we could cause the injury, the strain, the sprain, of course, a tear could occur. We don't want that to happen, so I'm going to give you the proper technique. Okay, so what we do when we address the bar, this is called an open chain lift. If you want to learn about open to closed chain lifts, you just need to look it up on the internet. An open chain lift means you're pushing into an unstable surface, so it's not the ground, like a push-up would be a closed chain. So when you're doing that, you have to do your best to stabilize your body so we can build more strength, okay? So a good way to stabilize your body in the bench press is keeping your feet on the ground and keeping them firm. Push into it and stabilize your body as you're laying down. That's really key. From there, let's first talk about that narrow grip. So what was that narrow grip? That narrow grip is typically where we stay with the thumb grip. So you go where the grip starts. If it's a typical bar, where that grip starts, you'll thumb grip, and you'll notice it puts you just outside your shoulders, okay? So that's what we're going to do, thumb grip. From there, we're going to wrap our thumbs around the bar where our thumbs and fingers are together. That will secure the bar to prevent us from dropping the bar and also hurting ourselves, okay? So we'll wrap the bar. We'll put our wrist into neutral. We'll build more strength in neutral positions as opposed to flex positions. So we're in a neutral position, okay? And then we would lift the bar on a flat bench, okay? Let's keep the elbows low. Do not let the elbows get high. So this is going to be a pec, an isolated pec position with the elbows down. This will be a more deltoid position with the elbows up, where we get better chance of straining that rotator cuff, because we are more putting the weight into a smaller muscle group as opposed to a bigger muscle group with the pecs. So elbows down. So that means the bar is coming down on your chest, slightly lower than you're probably used to, and then you're going to press up with those elbows down. Right there would be a good flat bench press. Now, 3-board. You just put the board on your chest, and that's going to restrict the range of motion, okay? So you can prevent going too deep. Now, this is we've got to be careful with this because we're creating a crutch. Okay, so we're using this for a throwing athlete who in a program like the 3X and 2X programs are throwing while training or before training. So the cuff could be a little fatigued, it could be a little inflamed. This would prevent any overloading of the cuff, specifically if we got into the high elbow position and isolated too much of the deltoid, okay? But I still want to do flat benches because I want to still build strength down there when my arm is healthy and feels good. So if it's days that you feel strong and your arm's not tired, do a flat bench. If it's days that you're tired, you'd use the 3-board. That's the only reason the 3-board is used, because I don't like restricting range of motion. So you don't definitely want to stay in it all the time, just the days that you feel a little tender from throwing in the shoulder. Now, in season, we don't go as hard with the bench, but in off season, we do put on the loads to build those pecs, which will help us with throwing velocity. Just because you have big pecs doesn't mean you're going to throw hard. You still have to learn how to load your arm or externally rotate your arm with your trunks in your throwing delivery. That's what we teach in the 2X and 3X programs as well. So we teach you how to build the pec, we teach you how to load the arm, and then that's how we increase ball speed. Now at the same time too, the pulls, the lats, like I said, are also extremely important because that's what's going to build our decelerators, because you want to make sure you can decelerate what you can accelerate, because if not, then that's going to cause imbalances and loss of integrity, and that leads to injury too. So there's a whole other side to building the back of the body, the lats, to throwing velocity that has to complement the presses, but still there's a lot of value in the bench press, and there's studies that prove there's a lot of value in the bench press for significantly increasing throwing velocity for pitchers, position players. You just need to, those that are making claims that it's not, you need to ask them to show you the research, because I truly believe It doesn't exist. I haven't found it, and I'd like to see it. So if you find it, bring it to me. I would love to learn more about it. But as far as the 4 studies we have on the article, it gives us confidence that we can go at this with good technique, and we can have a significant effect on our throwing velocity.